So I've got a lot of storage. I thought, oh gosh, I'm never gonna get my van back. This is my whole house, you know, have my office be wherever, you know, I'm parked that day. It just felt like it was meant to be. Hi, I'm Sophie, and this is Sage. Come check out my van. So a couple years ago, I filmed with Tiny Home Tours, and the same van, also Sage, but it was Sage 1.0, and now we're in Sage 2.0. So there's a bunch of things that I changed since I gutted the entire van and redid the build. So right now I'm standing in the kitchen. On this right-hand side here for me, I've got cutlery and everything up here, spice rack and mason jars, and then my Vitamix and other things to store extra food in. And then over here I've got a sink. I had actually a bigger sink in my last build, but this one is still pretty massive for a Vanlifer sink. And I'm glad that I kept it pretty big because I don't really like doing dishes every single day. And underneath here I have 21 gallons of water for storage, and I can actually make that last 2 weeks. And that's for drinking, washing dishes, and showering. But that's kind of like the extreme limit of how long that'll last me. And it's just a really simple system with a foot pump because I wanted something easy that I could fix. On this side of the kitchen, I've got a new 12-volt fridge. The old fridge I had was one of those Magic Chef, like ones for a dorm room, and it really made no sense for my van. It sucked up 100% of my solar power. So this one has a freezer in it, and it's super efficient. I'm obsessed. Up here I've kind of got like my jewelry and other accessories, and it's a bit of a junk drawer at times. Down here is my office, all in one drawer. And because I still work part-time, when I toured with Tiny Home Tours a couple years ago, I was still working full-time and actually had a desk over here, but no longer the case. Over here a little bit more of the kitchen because I've got a microwave, my hot plate that I can plug in, and some more clothes, and then finally my coat closet at the far end. So I've got a lot of storage on the top here, and that was really important to me because when I redid my build, I was still living in it full time and I had to store my entire life in here. And additionally, I added a bunch of wallpaper. I ordered it and I thought it was peel and stick. It was not, so it took a long time to add the glue and put it all on here and get everything lined up, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out because my initial color that I painted this was green, and it was kind of a bright green that just got a little too garish at one point. So yeah, I just wanted the new vibes with the wallpaper. So for the storage also, the old upper storage that I had in my other build was like twice the size. It came down further and it came out further, and it was only from here backwards, and they were just so massive that when I would lay in bed, I would sometimes get up and like hit my head on the cabinets that were hanging over, which was really annoying. So for this build, I wanted something smaller and more tucked away, and I love it. It never gets in my way. But I've got like a few different things up here. So up here I've got some canned goods and kitchen storage for these three. Over here, it's actually my bathroom. So I've got toiletries and everything up here, and then extras. And then finally, these back ones are all my closet. So I used to have a massive closet in New York when I lived there, and tons and tons and tons of clothes, but now I have donated or gotten rid of pretty much everything, and that's all I own. All right, so a lot of people ask me about these curtains, and they're shocked to hear that they cost about $2,000 to have for my entire van, but I think that was definitely money well spent. The reason I like these curtains so much, they're custom made. I found them from someone on Etsy, and they have magnets in them that are just strong enough so that they stay up when I'm driving and I never have to store them anywhere. Also over here, I've got some toys. So I liked how these are just kind of tucked away. Like, I'll never hit my head on this stuff. It's very much out of the way. It's not over a desk or anything. I've got a fly rod, I've got a fishing pole, and also a bow that I've only used for target practice so far. But we'll see if I get more use out of it on my homestead. So a lot has changed since my last van tour with Tiny Home Tours. When I met up with you guys a couple years ago, I was working full-time as a consultant. I was in Arizona with some friends, and I was very much in this phase of being very introspective, doing a lot of inner work, a lot of healing work, and a lot of just questioning things about my life and society and what I wanted my future to look like. I spent some time after full-time van life exploring certain parts of the world that I hadn't been to yet. So once I quit my consulting job, many months after that, I took all of my airline miles and hotel points that I had accumulated over many years and just went all out to the Maldives, Egypt, Western Africa, Bulgaria, and some other places, and did a different type of introspection out there in the world after all of this being in this one container for 2 years straight throughout the pandemic. And that was very eye-opening. I came back from that, hopped back into my van, went to Baja, actually for 2 months, where a lot of van lifers go. And I hadn't considered that trip for the past, like the 2 years prior to that I could have gone, because I just thought it sounded insane to take your van to Mexico. And I thought, oh gosh, I'm never gonna get my van back. This is my whole house, you know? How do people even like consider such a trip? And then I did a little research and realized it's totally not a big deal at all going across the border. And once you're over there, it's probably the best vacation of your life. So spent a couple months there, having a blast, just eating amazing fish tacos every day that cost next to nothing, surfing on the beach, and yeah, having my whole house in another country, which was an incredible experience, and also visiting with friends down there too. I came back up from Baja and I knew that I wanted to transition from full-time van life at that point to part-time van life. And I think a lot of van lifers feel this call to like put down roots at some point. Like you're a nomad until the point where you're like, okay, I'm kind of done with this. And so that hit me, but I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go yet. Part of me wanted to settle down in Montana and Idaho, but I also felt a calling to return to my roots where I grew up, around Ohio, and my godsons and their family are in Kentucky. So that's where I ultimately decided I wanted to transition into part-time van life and keep Sage parked a little more often and drive my truck around the farm a little more. So welcome to my bedroom slash office slash living room slash garage. It's all back here. So another thing that I wanted to change from my old build was I had a bed. I had a queen size bed that was pretty much up here, had this much clearance, and I was, like I previously said, knocking my face against these cabinets on a daily basis. So I wanted to bring it lower. I wanted to have this U-shaped seating area that's pretty popular in vans. And I wanted to bring my office back here also so that I could just open up the back doors and have my office be wherever, you know, I'm parked that day. So this size of bed, when I put the desk down and I put all of the cushions in to fill it in, is somewhere between a queen and a king size bed. And all I did was get a 5-inch mattress from Amazon, a Tempur-Pedic one, and just cut it up into these different cushion sizes. It's pretty comfortable, but honestly, I miss my old high quality mattress. And I do think if I were to do a third build, that I would go back to a stationary bed. However, I would probably miss all the other perks of this area. So I've got this swivel desk that a lot of van lifers have. I've got some storage down here. So this one right here has all of my shoes and some camping gear, and it's where I store my blankets and pillows and everything for when I go to bed. And then down here I've got all of my tools and all my diaries, going way back to my very first diary when I was a kid. So right now I'm sitting on my batteries, which are lithium iron and powered by 400 watts of solar on the roof. I upgraded that system significantly from the last time. I had the same wattage of solar, but the batteries were nowhere near as good. And yeah, I think I like quadrupled my capacity. So having a fridge that's a lot more efficient with having way more storage, I've pretty much never run out, so long as I'm not like hanging out in the Pacific Northwest at the wrong time of year with no sun. So a lot of people ask me why I have a mirror on my ceiling, and it is not what you think. The first reason is this is obviously a small space, and having a mirror opens it up. Another reason that I use it is for practicing shuffle dancing, because it's a lot better for me to understand what moves I'm doing and how they're looking if I have a mirror in front of me. So if I just pull up to a random parking lot that has a nice smooth surface and put my van, or open up my van door and put my mirror on the floor, then I'm able to, you know, see that feedback in real time. And then finally, sometimes I want to see what my outfit looks like. I mean, this happens like 3 times a year, but I can pull it down and use it for that also. So after a couple years on the road nonstop, I was feeling the call to put down some roots, and also just feeling the call to have a garden, to get more connected to the earth, to know where my food came from, my own garden, to have some chickens, and to refine my skills in construction that I started with this van build, and convert a shed into a tiny home in order to start homesteading somewhere. So after a couple years of driving all over the US and a little bit of the Baja Peninsula, I thought I would have a good sense of exactly where I would want to homestead and what would be the perfect climate. And the thing was, I realized after all that driving around, none of these places were perfect. Montana and Idaho are probably my favorites, but they wouldn't be my favorite or first choice year round. Also, the prices were astronomical when I was looking around there for land. And as luck would have it, my godson's family actually has some hunting land that's 45 minutes from their home. And I've been wanting to spend more time with them for years, but I've, been this nomad, and before that I was a nomad of sorts as a consultant, and before that in the Army, traveling around a lot for that and not really hanging out in Kentucky very much. But they said, hey, why don't you stop driving your van and just park it on our hunting land that we only use 2 weeks out of the year and go do whatever you want on there. So it's 102 acres. And the crazy thing is, I looked at so much land in Idaho and Montana. I was desperate for spring water or, accessibility or epic views and all these things that I was looking for. Silence was high on my list. And what I walked onto this hunting land in Kentucky it just shocked me because it was actually better than anything I had seen. There are ponds, there are creeks. The locals have corrected me and told me they are cricks. There's water everywhere. There's already a well, there's already a shed to be converted into a tiny home, and I've got family there. So it felt it just felt like it was meant to be. So one of the things that I started doing in my van several years ago was trying to take a Polaroid every time I would go see a friend. And I haven't been perfect at it. This is probably only 25% of the friends that I've met up with, but some folks are on here more than once. And it's just a really nice reminder of all the memories that I've had in this van with different friends. Also got a handful of books up here. Oh, and a guest book that I almost never remembered to ask people to sign, but had a few friends stay here, and then also just friends that I've met up with leave messages. And my plan was, once I completely stop driving this van around, that I'll sit down and read through everything that people wrote and just relive those memories. So my van's name is Sage, but there's pretty much no sage green color in here because it's honestly just not one of my favorite colors. However, we do have several sage bundles in here. Up here is my altar. So what I like to do when I wake up in the morning in my bedroom over there is walk up here to the front, a different room, and sit down here and meditate. So maybe I'll light some sage, maybe a candle, maybe some incense, and just meditate for a moment up here. And that's how I like to start my day. All right, now we are in the garage or the trunk of Sage. So this is where all of my batteries live. I've got one of these back there in case the whole thing explodes or catches on fire. That'll put it out. And my batteries, which I had just mentioned, and got some more gear for outdoor stuff, chairs, blanket, hiking stuff. And then I've also got a generator in case I run out of solar power and I'm in the middle of the woods. Had to use it just a couple times, but yeah, this gas has been sitting in there for like a year, so I almost never need it, but have it in case I do. I think the size is adequate. It's pretty packed, as you can see, but it's not like completely stuffed. Like, it's still somewhat organized. My old build that had a higher garage, I could fit a lot more in, but the problem was there was stuff in there that a year later I didn't even remember I had because it was like pushed all the way to the front corners, and the only way to access it would be to pull everything out, and if you don't see it, you kind of forget it's in there. So this works a lot better for me. It's only a few feet deep, and I can see immediately everything that's in here, all my workout equipment, whatever I need, I can just grab it and put it right back in. Thanks for coming along and checking out Sage with me today. Have no fear, I am not leaving van life. I'm just transitioning to part-time van life. So I think I'll be more of a snowbird, maybe doing the Baja trip every year or maybe some other adventures. But yeah, I think on the homestead and during the growing season is when I need to be on my land. And then I'll be taking Sage further south towards sunshine and 70-degree weather when the winter months hit. I share certain things about my journey, whether it's van life or homesteading, on my Instagram at Sophie Hilaire, and I'm also starting a podcast soon that'll go a little bit deeper into why I've made all of the life choices that I have along the way.